pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Councilwoman Greens is absent tonight, but other than that, all other council members are here and we have a quorum, so we will proceed with the agenda. First up is approval of that agenda. Does any council member have any questions on the agenda or any modifications to it?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Citizen comments. Hearing no citizen comments, we will move along to our consent agenda, which includes the minutes of our March 17th meeting and appropriations ordinance 1289.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda approved. Moving on to our three items of business tonight. First up is an ordinance 1126, which would repeal Chapter 5, Article 3 of our business regulations concerning amusement devices, which we've talked about in a previous meeting.
Yeah, so I think this is pretty straightforward after direction from the council at the last meeting, that there wasn't any interest in keeping this ordinance on the books because it's not being enforced at this time, and there didn't seem to be any appetite to begin enforcing it. This ordinance would repeal this section of our code regarding amusement devices.
Council, any questions on the proposed ordinance?
Move to approve the repeal of this ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 1126, repealing the said chapters and articles of our code regarding amusement devices. Ordinances are a roll call vote. Trummel.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Charlton.
Yes.
Keaton.
Yes.
Ordinance passes 4-0. All right, moving along. That time of year again, we're looking at street ceiling quotes.
Yes, for this year, we are scheduled to complete a project for the asphalt streets in the area included in the map. It's mostly kind of the southern portion of town and then also along Ohio all the way east and west and a couple areas north of the highway. You'll see that this area was last treated in 2019 in the rotation that we've been doing. And you'll see two quotes for this project, one from Hef's for EFOG, which is what we've been using the last several years since 2018. Prior to that, the city used ProSeal, and their product is called Reclamite. Both products are pretty similar surface treatments for asphalt. They are asphalt rejuvenators that help to maintain and seal in asphalt surfaces to make them last longer. Both products are pretty similar. I went back and kind of reviewed the minutes from when this change was made. Kyler, the previous administrator, it was during his time here. And really from what I can tell, some of it was cost, but then also I think just appearance. The EFOG goes on black and I think gives more of an appearance that something's been done, where the Reclamite product is actually, as advertised, it goes on pink. And so it doesn't really give that black new looking surface as much. It still does the same thing in providing some quality back to the asphalt surface, but doesn't have that same aesthetic, I guess. So we have both of those proposals in here. The Reclamite is $1.08 per square yard and EFOG is 78 cents a square yard. The main difference, though, you might notice in the quotes, is that ProSeal included in their price pre and post sweeping of the streets, which is not something that HEFs provide. And I provided some links if you had an opportunity to go and look at those products online. So as far as budget and how we can pay for this, in for this year's budget, 2025, we budgeted 28,000 in streets. And then at the end of the year, you may remember we transferred 30,000 out of 2024 that didn't get expended into the capital improvement fund so that we would be able to access that for this year. And then there is $19,000 in the special highway fund at this time. So those three together combined is $77,000. And then the remainder of the project can come from the capital improvement infrastructure fund, which currently has a cash balance of $634,000. So I'd open it to any questions or discussion. I don't know that I have a recommendation of a specific product. I think that they both have served us well in the treatment. I think that probably the things to weigh are cost.
You mentioned that one of the main differences between the two quotes is that ProSeal included the sweeping beforehand, Hess did not. I'm assuming that's something that our staff could do with our.
Correct, with our sweeper. Mm-hmm.
And like, same thing, Hess did note that patching is not included. If there are any patches or crack sealing that need to be done beforehand,
Same.
we'll do that ourselves.
Yeah, and ProSeal also does not provide that in this quote. Hess does provide some traffic control. They put cones up, things like that. I know the last time we did a door hanger and put those around, our guys did that. So just to try to notify citizens ahead of it happening.
And assuming typically this is done in mid to late fall in the past, will that be the same this year, or were they looking more of like peak season?
We're hopeful that it could be done earlier. In the past, we've been a little bit further in the game, and Hess has been out on summer road projects so once they came back, I think it's been September the last couple times. But we're hopeful maybe it could be done earlier since it's April to make this decision, so.
Depended on where they were tied up with other highway projects.
Right. Yeah.
They got a break where they could come.
Yeah, because really it can be done in a day or two. It doesn't take too terribly long for them to get it done, so. And one thing where we would want to schedule around this section does include the school. And so surely school will be out of session, but if it's not, we'll work around that to make sure that, there's not a lot of traffic when they do this project around the school.
And we would have to schedule where we have time to go in and fill the cracks and do
Yeah.
any patchwork, anything like that.
Council, any other questions or discussion on the proposed street sealing quotes?
That training that our guys went to for patching and cracks, like, do they have some new techniques that they plan to use before we do another big, the EFOG or the chip and seal again?
I don't know about new techniques, but better training to
Okay.
have better knowledge to do it. I know that with things warming up, I'm sure they're looking at starting to get out there and work on it.
Council, any further discussion on the street sealing quotes and/or any motion to move forward with one of the proposals?
I'd move to accept Hess proposal for EFOG.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move forward with Hef's proposal for the EFOG street sealing treatment. And just for clarification, the memo did have kind of a breakdown of the various funds that would fund that. Would that include funding it as administration recommends?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, moving on to our last item of business. Just again, time for quarterly financial report for the first quarter of 2025.
That's included in your packet for your review. I don't know that there's really anything of note, other than I think things are pretty well on track for the first quarter so far this year. You'll see that quite a few expenditures are less than last year, but everything seems to be tracking as usual. Some cash balances, quite a few cash balances are up over last year. But that's for your review, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Council, any questions on the first quarter financial report? Hearing none, council, if you do find any questions as you continue to review that, just encourage you to get with Stacy and get those questions answered. All right, hearing no more discussion for the first quarter financial report, we'll move on to city staff reports.
Last week, our employee Caden Ulrich, at the state water conference that they went to, he took the water operator test and passed, and so he is now a certified water operator. So we now have 2 for the city, which is a great place to be. And also last week, Justin Clausen finished his lineman apprentice program. He took the last tests and he has achieved 8,000 hours that's required for that program. So he is now a journeyman lineman, and will be receiving that certification from the state. I've already put in for that. So we're very proud of them and that accomplishment to get that training completed. So if you see them, congratulate them on their efforts. And along that line, next Friday the 18th is National Line Worker Appreciation Day. So if you see our guys out and about, please give them some kudos. We're starting some pool preparations for the summer season. I know I saw one of our city pickups over there today starting to work on getting things opened, getting the water turned on, and seeing what leaks there are that need repaired. It's something that every year coming out of winter, it's inevitable. We do have a leak that we know about in the pump room that we have Lane coming to fix. So hopefully that does not delay any of our pool operations. Pool manager Brad Lingenfelter is starting to work on hiring lifeguards for the pool. So on the 25th, I attended the Southwest KDOT listening session in Dodge City that I had mentioned at the last meeting, and gave some feedback regarding areas of concern kind of in our area. They had big maps on tables with green dots and red dots, where you could put red dots where you knew there were issues and green dots where you thought there were good things. And so it was interesting to give their feedback and then listen to some people from other parts of the region and see areas that they identified as challenges. I provided you a link here. If you can go and take a survey, they're asking any members of the public to go and take this survey to give feedback on areas of concern where you see needs in our region. So, and then I also attached a handout that they gave regarding this study that they're doing of the Southwest area that you can take a look at. Last week we had a tree board meeting to discuss our annual Arbor Day tree planting. That will be on Friday, April 25th at noon, which is Arbor Day. The location of that is to be determined. We're working on what location would be best to plant a tree here in the community. The tree board kind of brainstormed some ideas, but if you have any input or thoughts somewhere you think we could use one, let me know. The Kansas Forest Service was here last week in town. You may have seen them in our parks. They were doing an inventory of our public tree canopy. And so they were in all of our parks and then other areas, public spaces here in town, doing an inventory. So I'm hopeful that I can maybe get a little feedback from them also, and we can use that report in the future for our planning. And then I also included in the report a interesting infographic that the League of Kansas Municipalities recently put out that talks about the value of municipal governments and communities. I just thought it was interesting and that I'd share it with you. And then Chief Dennis's police monthly report is also included in the agenda packet for your review.
Council, questions for Stacy or questions on the police report?
Stacy, on your first item there about those gentlemen that took those tests and passed, have we got anybody yet that can operate the water treatment plant besides Meg?
I think
We talked about that for a couple of years.
And I think we're continuing to work towards that. Not fully.
Clarence is a certified water operator too, is he not?
Yes.
So surely one of those guys could train on that and
Yeah, and they can do a lot of it, yes. A lot of it, I would say, is more on the software side, the computer side of the operation, and even some of that, a lot of it, the company integrated controls that we work with, we reach out to them when we're having some of those issues. Like recently, the water tower and the water treatment plant were not talking, and things on the computer were not working as they should, and so he's able to remote in, and so a lot of that kind of stuff, we do have a resource to help us with that sort of thing too. But yes, we're working to do more and more cross-training all the time.
that would take me out right there.
Yeah.
Software part of it.
That's most of the problem.
Yeah, that is most of the problem, when we have challenges.
I just think that we need to be working more toward that if we
Yeah.
can at all possible.
It's a ongoing, for all of us, I think, in all of our departments, that we all, we're a small organization.
They've done away with the hand shut-offs and went to push a button and
Yeah.
hope some
Yeah.
machine somewhere takes care of it.
And when the water tower doesn't talk to the water treatment plant, or vice versa, and, yeah.
What are you saying, one screaming for water and the other one won't give it up, or what?
Or it says, I don't have water, but really it does. And so then there's water in the park, for instance.
That's crazy.
Other questions for Stacy? Hearing none, we'll move on to governing body comments. Hearing none of those, we do have an executive session scheduled tonight for data relating to the financial affairs or trade secrets of second parties, and 10 minutes is requested.
Make a motion, we go into executive session until 6:30.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session until 6:30. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We are back in open session with no action taken. And that brings us to the end of our agenda tonight, so we will adjourn the meeting.